Tyler, we're talking about some comic books.
What? No. You know, I held this watch up my ass for 2 years. Sorry. That was the one Christopher Walken scene I could think of. Have you ever seen? Hang on, before we go on. It's called Off Panel Off
No, it's
Topic.
funny you say. It's funny you reference that because there's a Pulp Fiction.
Shut up. Well,
Wow. There's a Pulp Fiction
cover. You're right. Yeah.
In this book.
I'm so sorry.
In this comic book, we're
rude.
supposed to be reviewing that he just fucking loathes so much that he is torpedoing me. But go ahead.
I'm not torpedoing you. You go ahead.
Feels like it. I'm getting fucked right now.
Jesus. That's
All right, so this is Chew
volume 3.
This is a fact we're giving out. Don't send us a book because it'll take us 20 minutes.
It'll take us 20 minutes.
Talk about it.
Singing.
So yeah, this is Chew,
volume 3
by John Layman, Rob Gilroy, volume 3,
Just Desserts.
So this is issues 11 through 15 of the book.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, is the first
I think it's
quarter.
the fucking art style that just turns me off. Also, I have issues with food, kind of.
Oh yeah,
eating shit, and
eating shit,
eating feet and fingers, and
so yeah, the first issue starts with like billions of years ago. It's like the Ice Age, and it shows a saber-toothed tiger eating a mammoth, and then a human with a spear attacking it and fighting it, and then it's getting frozen.
See, this is when you should have your stand.
Yeah, this is where I need to fix the mic stand.
Naked emotion. Naked emotion.
So anyway,
yeah,
we see the fight, and then they get frozen. And
so flash number 187.
Yeah, and so then we flash all the way forward, and we get a reminder of Tony's abilities that he can eat.
Mm-hmm.
He could eat a cheeseburger, and seeing how that fucking cow was slaughtered and the farm they were on, very in that stuff. So then he comes back because at this point he ran into the vampire in Yamapulu,
who's not a vampire.
Who is not a vampire. He's also a Sibopath because if you remember, Savoy in the first volume said there's only 3 Sibopaths or Cybopaths, however you pronounce it. Oh, there's only 3 of them in the world. And Savoy and Tony were 2 right there. So
and the vampire is the third.
So Appleby sees him like show up finally back from Yamapulu and is like, again, I understand how you can maybe be turned off by the art style, but this book is just so fucking funny. Like the bit like where Appleby, the art I think complements it so well though. The bit where Appleby grabs the book that says vampires and he goes, "Vampires, I see," and it's just normal. And then there's 3 panels. First one's normal. Second panel, he's pissed. And the third panel, he's like smiling because he's like, "Carry on." Yeah. Because he's nice to Tony because his buddy John Colby fucked Appleby. So he's like trying to hide his anger so much. And then it blows up later. We also find out something interesting because we notice that we're tying things between Savoy and the vampire and everything else, but we were talking with the guy who has the frickins or
frog chickens,
but they call them chogs.
Chogs.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Why don't you chog this hog?
I don't think you can get them anymore, but for a while they had plush chogs that you could buy. So there's these ugly fucking chicken frog hybrids. So yeah, that company is trying to. They make fake.
Why?
Capitalism. So anyways,
nice.
You fucking nailed us.
That was a sound. That was what's called a salad. Word salad. No, a sound picture. A word picture. We're professionals. What?
All right, so we get a phone call from Colby. He gets a call from who we find out to be Caesar, and he's just talking in words of like, the quiet man needs to come in from the cold. And Colby's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And he's like, keeps talking in code, and then he just goes, "Where's Mason?" And he goes, "Mason," and then the phone just hangs up. So before this, we didn't know that Caesar had connections to the FDA. So we're kind of laying down like, oh, Caesar has connections to Savoy.
I thought we did.
Well, we knew that he was working with. We don't know it until in this volume, I think, because this is where he finally meets Chu, and we find out that Caesar's an FDA agent who's been undercover.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, it's another scenario where it's like, oh, they show up and then there's a dead body with a pitchfork in his chest and a fucking rat in his mouth, and they expect Tony to eat the rat because, of course, Appleby still hates Tony. And they have a whole discussion where Kobe's like, I guess I'll just scan it with my cybernetic eye or whatever and try and sort this out. So they go back and forth, and then he's like, what's going on tonight? And then he's like, oh, I got a date with Amelia. And Kobe is kind of annoyed. He's like that friend who's like grossed out and annoyed by new love of this relationship. He's like, fuck you guys. I don't want to hang out with you guys.
Yeah. So don't.
Again, the art is so great because it's just Tony just says, hi. And Kobe's just standing there. They're just standing there. And then Amelia just says hi. And then it's a third panel. And he looks over at Tony. Nothing. No words. Nothing. And then the fourth one, he looks over annoyed. Like, all right, can you two just fucking stop oogling each other, please? Pretty much.
Would you fuck already?
But and that's what I love so much about this series and why I've stuck with it so much, because it does such a great job of understanding the visual medium of it, and of the visual aspect of the medium is what I should say.
Yeah.
And it really, like, just moments like that with no dialogue, it's all visual and it's funny. And it, like, there's so many panels where there's no dialogue, it's just visual comedy. And you wouldn't think, like, slapstick visual comedy would work that well, but then I also think, like, yeah, dude, that's what or comic books have always had.
I love slapstick.
And this is just using it to, like, a crazy extreme. And instead of superpowers, like super strength and super speed, it's food. And that's what makes it even more ridiculous and funny and over the top. And it's like some of these panels, I'm reading it again, I'm just like, there's just some things that make me laugh. So anyway, we find out that there's like this ultra exclusive dinner with very rich people.
And actual chicken.
Where they eat like actual chicken. And they're getting like dodo egg. They're like eating prehistorical preserved
which is
animals.
Fucked up, dude.
Yeah, which is pretty wild.
Fucked up.
And we also see that the chef from the last volume that would speak to you through his food is there to cook.
Yeah.
But anyway, Tony's eating, and he's taking a bite, and it's like, oh, this is mammoth, is the meat that they're given. He takes a bite. He's like, this isn't mammoth. This is saber-tooth tiger, which ties it back to why we saw that saber-tooth tiger fight that dude.
What?
Oh, that's right. So Tony Chu's like, that's all I need because this is a sting operation. And he's like, boom, you're under your arrest. And then this is what I mean. It's a very funny book, but then it also has really cool action scenes. And you're like, what is this thing? And I think that's what it's so funny about you and I when we approach this book. And once we get past this issue, we'll kind of just go through the rest of it. But, like, briefly. It's the thing. It's so dense. There's so much to talk about.
I know. Just kidding.
But, like, the violence of it is this guy has Amelia by the throat, and he's got a knife, and Tony sees, like, a little scratch from the knife, and there's a little drop of blood. And then the next sequence is a shot of him just putting 2 holes through the guy's eyeballs. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you see Tony be a badass and stuff, but then it's also this really silly thing of the next page, the end of the issue is like him just like still enamored with her, like, oh my god, I can't believe she likes me.
Well, they just did it.
And we had sex.
They just did it.
In the next episode, we get more of Pollo, who was introduced in the last episode, which, by the way, I love. I fucking love this intro-ish to this issue. Because it is told through the perspective of a dude who looks like fucking kind of like Howard Cosell a little bit.
Oh yeah.
And so he is narrating a fight, which what you think is like a boxing fight, right? At the same time, we see the dude from Yamapulu who stole Polio get the fuck beat out of him. And it looks like this dude is narrating that dude getting beaten the shit out of, and it's great. And then you still think it's like this boxing thing, and no, then it's revealed it's a cockfight, and it's a 2-page splash of Poyo. And Poyo continued, like, this is when you really start to see Poyo kind of become more a character in the story, and it's funny because it's almost like a video game where, like, you're playing, like, a game where you're like, I need a tank. I need a character that's just going to go in there and just wreck shit, clear a path, and then leave, pretty much. And that's all Poyo does throughout this series. He is just an agent of fucking chaos and just destroys people. And it's oddly insane how much I love watching that chicken just tear the fuck up.
Yeah, it is kind of insane.
So anyway, we get more intel. We see again Appleby being like, "God damn it, Chew, will you just shut the fuck up?" Like, because he keeps interrupting me. Like, "Oh yeah, I always saw him on Yamapulu. I worked with him. He fucked me over. Blah blah blah." And Appleby's like, "Will you just shut the fuck up? I'm trying to do the intel." And then Chew goes undercover with D-Bear, who we met previously. Yeah. And they have Poyo. And then we also get introduced to this other food-related character who is saying all the ingredients in his food when he eats it.
Yeah. That's a weird
guy. So then we have the showdown. And, didn't they say, so this episode, this issue, the gimmick is that the pages were printed out of order was the joke. So, like, this is actually page 17, but it's really, and they do that later in the series where, like, this is technically episode. This is technically issue 27.
Well, hey, fairness to Jake, we have been talking about television series the first, 2 hours of the show.
Poyo gets unleashed, kills these fucking guys. D-Bear knew that was going to happen. He just wanted those guys to die.
I like when the guy gets just his eye socket just fucked by Poyo's fucking beak, and the guy's like, "Holy shit!"
So then, what the fuck?
What the fuck?
So then Tony goes home to
just
Amelia,
fucked.
And she's like, "Do you want to hang out with me, or do you want to answer your phone to the shitty job with the shitty boss that you hate?"
And she goes, "I'm not answering the phone." And
then
we got Savoy cornered.
Yeah.
See, you think I didn't read the book, you liar?
So then we get more of a background on Savoy and kind of all the shit that he was up to with Caesar back in the day in the FDA. And
that's where we have the Pulp Fiction very cover.
Yeah.
All right.
Pulp Fiction. So then Tony Chu shows up. Amelia gets her job back at the paper, and that's where we get introduced to not frickin' but Chogs. This is
Chogs.
So this is where Caesar is talking to the dude that runs the shit, and he's like, "Hey man, you gotta chill out." And then a bunch of ninjas or SWAT team people show up. Caesar whips out some knives, throws them at him, gets out the rich guy, and then he clonks him on the head, and then that's when he reveals to him like, "Hey, dumb shits, I'm undercover. I'm FDA. What the fuck are you doing?" Because it's Colby and Chew. And they're like, motherfucker, like this shit, like where they're both angry and there's just flames. And then the I always love it when there's like the big font and things like that. Just, again, the book constantly plays with the medium. And then it ends with back to where we were the previous issue where the FDA is bearing down on Savoy. And then we also get reminded that Tony Chu had a family previously. And we talk about when he proposed to his ex, Min.
Yeah.
And then she went crazy and...
She went nuts.
Shaved her head and tried to kill him.
Bomb the...
She got pregnant
State of
and had
Liberty.
a kid.
Statue of Liberty.
Yeah. But then Amelia was talking to him, and that explains why there's a piece...
Pièce de résistance?
There's... What's in
French?
There's a piece of his body in the freezer.
What? Oh yeah. What about his body?
So
in the
anyway,
freezer?
the raid on Savoy goes sideways.
What about the thing in his freezer?
It was related to his ex, where like she cut off a piece of something. I can't remember. Anyway, the raid on Savoy goes sideways. Tony finds out because he licks up some blood and sees what Savoy did, and it's just carnage. And Colby got his ass beat by Savoy. And Savoy even offered him to help him, and he said, "No, I'm not going to do that because he's loyal to Tony." And you kind of see, this is where you get a little bit more development of how much, it's just interesting of how the animosity Savoy has to Chew. And you get to find out more and more in the series why he feels the way, and why he's so dogmatic about what he wants to do and gets upset with Tony and doing things the way that he does. But he still has a respect for Tony, and John views him as his partner. He's a good. He might be a douchebag. He might be a dick, but he's still a good cop, and he cares about his partner. And he's like, I'm not gonna fucking sell out my partner because you bit off his fucking ear, man. So anyway, that's when we get more flashbacks of Caesar meeting Savoy at a movie theater, and they talk about their plans. Trying to go further, and Caesar's like telling Savoy, you're going to get yourself caught. And then we get Amelia waking up early. You see all the fucking beets in the cabinets in the fridge.
Yeah.
And then she opens the freezer, and we just see a bag, and she screams, and he's like, Amelia, what is it? And it's a toe. Which I think it might be a reference to Big Lebowski, because there's green nail polish.
Maybe.
And then it's like, oh, what's happening? So then we get to the last issue, which is the Thanksgiving episode, everybody.
Wow.
Yeah, so it shows
Thanksgiving, everybody.
Savoy sitting there with a picture of his dead wife. And he takes a drink of wine, and he continues to eat and see all the things of how the food was made, and he, having the visions that Tony would have. Then he takes Tony's ear and makes a slice of it, takes a bite.
I will say these first 4 or 5 pages.
Good God, man!
What is it? The first 10 pages or so?
Yeah, it's just amazing.
It's really interesting because the
you're seeing
left
the
side
process.
Hey, man.
Sorry, go on.
Let me gush about your book.
Thank you. Finally, say something nice.
No,
please.
it's Chuck. No. So it's like the first 8 pages of the issue, and the left side I think it's 3 panels on each page, or 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so there's 8 total, but there's, the top one is 2, and each one of his panels is a different, close up of like his face and whatnot. Yeah. And each one of the right panels is just
it's like a red orange.
Earlier in the series, you've seen this before, where a psychopath eats something and they have this kind of vision.
It's the mirroring the first shot of the first issue.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So but there's also, it's really interesting because he's seeing all this stuff, and it boils down to just Tony, doesn't it? End up just boiling down to Tony.
Yeah, it boils just down to his.
It's all these people, but it just boils down to Tony.
So
you're
seeing all these
again.
faces of of his brother, his sister, his girlfriend,
all these
Amelia,
different people, right.
people that he interacts with all the time. Yeah. And then it zeroes in on one face, and it turns out to be this girl's face, this teenager, or this younger girl's face.
Yeah, because he's trying to figure out how to hurt her.
And so then now we see Tony show up at Thanksgiving, and he sees his family, and then we get introduced to all of it. And I love each caption introduction is Rosemary Chu Shen, that's the older sister, and then there's Tang Shen, the brother-in-law. Oh, it's Tony. Nobody likes him because he's a fucking narc, so they can't have turkey because of the bird flu. We can't have fucking real turkey on Thanksgiving.
Fucking douchebags.
Yeah, so it's Tony, and then you see Antonelle Chu, fraternal twin, a.k.a. Tony with an I, Chu. So she goes back. She's really happy to see him, and he's kind of whatever, and she clearly is the more outgoing, crazy fun one, and he's more the,
douchebag,
stubborn, serious one, yeah. So they go back and forth, and he's like, "What the hell? You didn't tell me you had a girlfriend." And then he's like, "Well, you." And then she also talks to Rosemary and tells Rosemary to stop being a jerk and "Hey, we're having fun. It's Thanksgiving. It's family." There's this big 2-page splash of the Chu family. So we got Ong Chu in a wheelchair with oxygen mask. Also, Grandpa smells like poo on the wall and graffiti. We also got Harold Chu, younger brother, stage name Miso Honey. So it's his younger brother in drag. Chip Chu Shen is his nephew, and then we got Bree Chen Shen. Bree Chu Shen is niece, and then Bao Chu is mom. Chow, we know him. That's what the caption says. Sage Chu is his younger sister. Charlie Chu, distant cousin, works for Oni Press. Bok Chu is his father, and he's dead. But so we see the whole family. And
Oni Press, if I'm not mistaken, is a company that produces manga.
So Tony didn't invite Amelia to come over
because
I think Tony is still ashamed of his family, and his family doesn't really think highly of him.
No.
But then we get an introduction from John and Amelia, because Tony saw that talked to John and was like, "Hey, you guys should come over for Thanksgiving. Why not?" So they do. And meanwhile, I love the dynamic of Tony and John in the background of them having like a friendly conversation when Tony didn't invite Amelia over because she saw the toe, and he was like, "I don't know how to explain that, and then take you to Thanksgiving and meet my family that I'm embarrassed by." So we negate what I said earlier because I forgot the whole toe thing. So then the next few, they're having this thing where he's trying to talk to her about it, and it's awkward. And you're kind of actually seeing what makes their relationship interesting because it's actually a healthy relationship where they talk things out. But then you see all this fucking gossip in the background by John and Tony, his sister, which is funny. And then, Tony's pissed because and then we finally introduced to Olive, who we saw earlier when Savoy was looking for someone. And then this whole time they're pissed at Tony because he's like, "Chow, you shouldn't have cooked a real fucking bird. You know, I'm a cop," and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, "Shut the fuck up. It's Thanksgiving." Yeah. And then there's a big car wreck, and this dude's all bloody, and he's like, "What happened? What's going on? What is it? What does it mean?" And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Holy fucking." And then there's just markings in the sky. And that's how this volume ends.
No, it doesn't, because they're all looking up at the sky, and then he introduces Amelia to his daughter awkwardly.
Oh, yeah. By the way, yes.
What a dick.
We get to meet Tony's daughter, and then that's what we also find out is Savoy knows that Tony has a daughter, and he's targeted her. And she comes into play later, and
so what the fuck is that in the sky?
It all makes sense.
No, it doesn't.
Okay. It's hard. I know. It's so dense. Even me trying to break down each issue as fast as I could, it was hard because it's so goddamn dense. But I get it.
What?
But what do you like?
We're doing the whole series.
I want
to know what the fuck this leads to.
Because you just want me to watch The Wire.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll watch The Shield
that.
and I'll watch The Wire. I'll watch all the corrupt cops.
I forgot about that. But I want to see where the fuck this all leads to, because I don't believe you that it leads to something.
Well, no, I mean,
I don't believe you.
I mean, other than that, what did you think? Like, I know that what is I don't know. I'm obviously going to be biased. I love that series, so I'm going to be hard to talk to, I guess, in a way of like, I just don't. I get for someone coming in and not reading it before, I understand how you could feel overwhelmed. Because, again, there are a lot of different storylines.
I don't think I've given it as much of a shot. So when we do 4, I'm going. Also, it's been a couple weeks since I read that one. When we get to 4, I promise I'm going to give it more of a shake. Because we do a lot of books that I like. And I want to make sure that I'm being...
Well, we should do, by the way...
being a good friend and a good co-host.
See, I'm being a good guy because I'm sticking it out even though I hate it.
I don't hate it. It's just not my style of book at all. There's just a lot of it that I just... Well, there's some of the humor that's kind of winking at you. It's like, I saw that movie. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry.
I just want you to branch out and read other books.
No, Batman and Spider-Man. Yeah,
that being said, our next book is Superman.
No, we're not talking about that today.
No, yeah. Next week, we will be talking about Superman.
I'm actually going to go see if one of the book places, shops in town have that in paperback. I'll bet you it's in paperback.
Space Age?
Yeah, because I want a copy of it.
See, this is the thing. I got this from the library, so I have the hardcover.
Which is cool.
God,
great library. Where?
West Des Moines.
Oh, yeah.
I'm telling you right now, though, I for years I never understood why people would spend the more money for hardcover versus paperback. Having almost exclusively paperback.
Me too.
The Green Lantern books, the Earth 1 books are kind of hard. They're hardcovers, but they're not like super thick. But like this, Superman Space Age, which is the book we're doing next week, this hardcover it just feels so good.
It's hard.
It makes me hard. Superman Space Age next week, everybody.
Off panel, off topic with Jake and Tyler.